Money on my mind, looking for a dime. James Lock in the house, gonna help you shine.
Welcome to the Pool Lock YouTube channel. I'm James Lock. Today we're going to answer some of our Ask James questions of the day. First question is from Sam. He says, how do I know how much income I need in retirement? It's a complicated question, and let me see if I can kind of knock that out in a few short minutes. First off, I always tell people, take the old rule of thumb and throw it out the window, right? You know, you say I can retire on 70% of what I was earning. Now, for some people, they can retire on less. For some people, they need more, right? So, Sam, I usually recommend going through a bit of a process here. The first thing is to take your current income and subtract from the income the expenses that will go away in retirement. Things like contributing to your 401k, right? You do it when you're working, you're not going to do it when you're retired. The FICA taxes that get withheld from your paycheck, you pay that only when you're working. You don't pay that as a retiree. If you plan to have maybe a debt paid off, well then the monthly payment can get subtracted because you don't need that when you're retired. So what you do by kind of subtracting expenses that are going away in retirement is that you get a number, an income amount that could be a little bit less than what you are earning, or it could be a lot less than what you're earning. And that's how much money you need to live the same lifestyle that you have today. But then you've got to build on top of that, because you have to realize that when you're retired, it means you have more time on your hands. More time means you're going to want to do more things. That means it's going to cost more money, right? So as a result, you now have to say, okay, what does retirement look like for me? And if you don't know, Sam, then sometimes you have to practice retirement, right? Now, we've talked about it before. Saving up maybe your vacation days, taking a whole month at a time, and just staying at home or going to a place you might want to retire and practicing and seeing how your life evolves in retirement. Now, I've also talked about interviewing people that you know that have retired successfully, happily, and see how they've done it. What decisions they've made, what mistakes they've made. So start to figure out what extra things you're going to want to do in retirement, how much they cost, and add that back onto that income need number. Now, here's where the investing for income piece becomes critical. Once you know your target income number, you need to work backwards to figure out how much you need invested to generate that income reliably. Now, a good rule of thumb is that 4% withdrawal rate, meaning you'd need about 25 times your annual income need invested, right? But I prefer looking at it from a dividend and interest perspective. Build a portfolio of dividend-paying stocks, REITs, bonds that can generate the cash flow you need without having to sell your principal. The beauty of focusing on income-generating investments is that you're not dependent on market timing for your retirement success. Whether the market goes up or down, those dividend checks and bond interest payments keep coming in. That's the kind of predictable income stream that lets you sleep well at night in retirement. So you'll walk away with kind of bare bones. This is how much income I need to live the same lifestyle I have today, and this is how much income I want for the lifestyle I hope I have, knowing that I've got a lot more time on my hands. Then you can build an investment strategy focused on generating that income consistently. So I kind of hope this kind of explains, or this expanded version helps you think through both the income planning and the investment approach. Great question. If you have a question like Sam did and you'd like to send it in, you can do so. You can email it to us at poollock@poollock.com. Our second question from Ellen. She says, I'm really worried about medical expenses and retirement because I've had a lot of family members, including immediate family members, that need intensive medical care later in life. So what do I need to know? All right, now, and I guess it depends upon whether you plan to retire before age 65 or after age 65. Because right now, of course, Medicare kicks in at age 65, which is helpful. So what if you're retiring before 65? Well, the optimal situation in many cases here is to be able to extend the coverage you had at work. Now, you're probably going to have to do that by paying for it, although you might work for a company which pays for that medical coverage in retirement, which is really just kind of gravy on top. But let's say you don't and you have to pay for it. It's probably more expensive coverage. But if it's only for a finite number of years, let's say from age 63 to age 65, it's probably worth it because it's probably better coverage than what you can get individually. Now, you have to take a look at it, right? You have to assess it. But in most cases, that's the case, right? Or now, if you're retiring and let's say you're married and your husband is still working, you can go on his insurance. Well, then that could be just as good of an alternative. But then you hit age 65, you go on to Medicare. Remember, Medicare Part A, that's the free part, is really just in hospital expenditures. It's hospital stays, right? But then you have to buy Medicare Part B. Medicare Part B costs you money. Now, they take it right out of your Social Security benefits. And if you're not collecting Social Security benefits at age 65, well, then, you can just pay for Part B. But Medicare Part B is at a cost to you, is what kind of helps cover your doctor's visits. That's important. But even Medicare Part B doesn't cover things like long-term care. If you have a long-term care need at home or in a facility, it doesn't cover prescription drug costs. So now you've got to get either Medicare Part C or you've got to get what's called a supplement. Part C is kind of like a supplement, but it's really not. But the point is, they're similar, and it helps fill the gap. They're both designed to fill the gap that really Medicare doesn't cover and Medicare Part B doesn't cover. But then even a supplement doesn't cover any long-term care and nursing home expenditures really beyond 100 days. It'll cover 100 days worth, and even then, there's a lot of loopholes. So you want to cover yourself beyond that. Well, now you've got to take a look at long-term care insurance. And unfortunately, I don't have time to go through and answer that question on just a short video here to talk about the ins and outs of long-term care, right? That's complicated. But here's where the investing for income piece becomes really critical for medical expenses, right? Given your family history, you need to kind of think about building a healthcare reserve fund that's separate from your regular retirement needs. Now, I recommend creating a dedicated income stream specifically for medical expenses through dividend-focused investments. Consider healthcare REITs, right? Utility stocks with solid dividend histories, and even some maybe healthcare-focused dividend funds, right? These can provide growing income streams that help offset rising medical costs over time. The key is to start building this medical expense income stream early, right? Because healthcare inflation typically runs higher than general inflation. Now, by focusing on dividend-growing investments in your healthcare reserve, you're creating a buffer that can extend or expand over time. Think of it this way. If you can generate an extra $500 or $1,000 per month in dividend income, specifically kind of earmarked for medical expenses, that goes a long way towards covering Medicare supplements, prescription costs, and even long-term care premiums. Don't forget about health savings accounts, right? If you're still working and have access to an HSA, max that out. After age 65, you can use the HSA funds for any purpose without penalty, though you'll pay regular income tax on non-medical withdrawals. But for medical expenses, it's still tax-free, making it one of the best retirement investment vehicles available. So I hope that helps you kind of think about the insurance landscape and how to build an investment strategy that specifically addresses your medical expense concerns. Thanks for the awesome questions today. If you would like to send in your questions, you can do so by emailing them to poollock@poollock.com. And if you like what you heard, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel. I'm James Locke, your retirement income source. I'll see you next time.
Money on my mind, looking for a dime. James Locke in the house, gonna help you shine. Retirement is near, don't you live in fear. Listen up, my friend, let me make it clear. Savings in the